So, we want to welcome the entire world to this class. Please make space for some of the newcomers. So the sukkah is very full, actually. We have, because the Ushpizin is Avram, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Moshe, David, Shlomo. Now, according to Chassidus, there's something called the Chassidish Ushpizin. We say the Baal Shem Tov, the Magid, the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, the Mitzvah Rebbe. Today is the Mitzvah Rebbe, together with Moshe Rabbeinu, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, yeah?
They both had the quality of emes, the quality of like truth. It's very interesting because we're kind of doing, just did V'zais HaBracha, we're completing the
Right,
Torah.
right.
So what is the last thing in the Torah? Is that Hashem says, Yeshakayach, that you broke the luchos, right? That's the greatest thing Moshe Rabbeinu did. He took us out of Mitzrayim, he gave us the Torah. The greatest thing is he broke the luchos. It's a very, very deep part. Why did he break the luchos? He broke the luchos because it says that this was like a king who had, a betrothed. And the problem was that this betrothed she was hanging out with the maids and she had gotten a bad name. And so therefore was a question, well, how's the king going to feel about her? So what did the guy, the apotropos, the person in charge, do? He took the contract and he ripped up the contract. You're not betrothed, don't worry about it. And then he realized, no, she was always faithful. So also Moshe Rabbeinu comes down, he sees the Jewish people being unfaithful, so he breaks the luchos. He says, you're not betrothed, don't worry about it. What did Moshe Rabbeinu? Moshe Rabbeinu, the Rebbe says as far, Moshe Rabbeinu was all about emes. It says that emes v'chesed nashaku, truth and love kiss, that's Moshe and Aaron. Because when Moshe Rabbeinu passed away, it says that everybody mourned him for 30 days. But when Aaron passed away, the whole Klal Yisrael mourned him. Why? Because he was busy creating peace between people. So the Rebbe says something very profound that Moshe Rabbeinu realized towards the end of his life, you see, every neshama, including our own neshamas, we come into this world. Oh, Baruch Hashem. Al tifriya temani im atfilah shelo. So. These guys they get up like 3 a.m. They get daven for 5 hours straight. He told me an amazing story that there was a Sefer Torah.
These are people staying here?
Yeah, these are people staying here. There was a Sefer Torah in Yemen that the story is there was a period, all the Jewish people went through our own tzara. So in Yemen there was a period where they kicked them out, and the Jews were basically sent into the desert, like city desert. Like 50% of the population passed away from disease and whatever. So when they were sent out, they took a Sefer Torah and they buried it in a mikveh. They wanted to save the Sefer Torah. So Sefer Torah and a mikveh is not a great combination. It turns out there's a 900-year-old Sefer Torah, and this Sefer Torah, when they took it out of the mikveh, was perfectly fine. And it exists today in Yerushalayim. Whenever you take it out and you want to read the Torah, because by the Yemenites, everybody comes to the Aliyah, and you have to say the Aliyah, right? They have very ancient traditions. The Alter Rebbe, in fact, read the Torah with the Nusach Teiman, because it's the most accurate Nusach that we have. They have very, very accurate. This guy knows it all. Yeah. The G is like very highly accurate Nusach. So whenever you want to read, unless you have Shalom, it doesn't let you read. Like you can't get the word out. So they in the congregation, they have to ask forgiveness. Then the person can read. So this is a Torah that exists. There's another Torah right here in the Buhav Shul.
Did they put it in the mikveh? In the water?
In the water, I guess they're trying to. I don't know.
Could it have been
It's right.
preserved?
I don't know. By the way, we have a Sefer Torah here. Recently, this past year, there was a dedication. They were digging by a shul in Berlin. They had buried the Sefer Torahs before Kristallnacht.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a Torah, they took it out and they're working on so this mamish. In any event, there's a Sefer Torah here in the Abu Hab Shul. Also, it's like a 700-year-old Sefer Torah. They take it out twice a year on Sukkah and I think maybe on Kippur or something, because they noticed that sometimes it would have a mistake, and then they would look at the Torah and it would be okay. And they realized that unless people went to the mikveh, there would be a mistake in the Torah. So they only take it out when they know people go to the mikveh. I saw that Torah. They took it on Shavuos. So, in any event, I want to focus today on a very important lesson. At Shomat, Tov. Kol olam tzarich lishma. Very important lesson. Ken, Baruch Hashem. What's the lesson? The lesson is, my wife had told me, before I came here, she's a big, hope you get a lesson from her. She's she's got like a audiographic memory, so she knows a lot. But the lesson is that Yom Kippur in real life is Sukkah. Yom Kippur is when we go to Hashem. It's the idea of this unity with Hashem. But Sukkot is when we're with Hashem, right? It's the only mitzvah that you go in with all, like even the mikvah, you go in without your clothing. It's a holy, but you're naked. The sukkah, you go in with the mud on your boots. You go in the way you are. Hashem is the way you are. Now, what does the sukkah represent? The sukkah represents the anane hakavod, the clouds. Mm-hmm. Now, what happened to the Jewish people? The Jewish people were in the desert. How did they travel from point A to point B? So the clouds lifted up, and the clouds were saying, guys, time to move forward. There's a very, very, very profound and deep lesson to this. Because what is Sukkot all about? Sukkot is all about simcha, happiness. And really in life, in a way, we should be the happiest people, right? Because we have some money, we have safety, we are living better. I remember a teacher of mine when I was a young boy, he told me this. So we are living better than kings and queens in the olden days. They didn't have air conditioning. I get hot, they turn on the cold. Get cold, they turn on the hot. I never figured out why you have to turn on the cold in the summer and the hot in the winter. But it says in Chassidus, we like the opposite. So you're cold, you like to be hot. You're hot, you like to be cold. But the point is, a click of a button, you can do these things. They couldn't do this. The guy could be a Roman emperor. He couldn't click buttons. He couldn't. He didn't have the luxuries. They say if you had to pay people to do what the technology does, have 40 people working for you. The average guy has like 40 people working for him. Your refrigerator, it's unbelievable what we have. He couldn't fly to Africa in a day. It would take him 3 months. So seemingly we should be the happiest people, but it turns out we're the most miserable. Why? Because happiness has much more to do with, first of all, being grateful, which is an exercise. Gratitude is not something that comes to a person naturally. That's why all of the davening is gratitude. One of the things I write, did you have a chance to look at the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So I speak about gratitude there in the first chapter. It's an exercise that I got from Chassidus. I taught it to many people. I do it. Many people, it's changed their lives. It says in Chassidus, the first thought of the day becomes your train of thought. So when you wake up in the morning, it's not enough to say Moida Ani as a ritual. You actually have to count your blessings. Mm-hmm. There's no person, it says in Kabbalah, I heard this from a guy, a Holocaust survivor, so it comes from a good source. He told me, it says in Kabbalah, if you took all of your curses, and trust me, if you've been through enough of life, you've had curses. Curses that you wouldn't wish on anyone. Mm-hmm. But if you took all of your curses, and you compared it to one of your blessings, you put it on a scale. Take every single bad thing that ever happened to Zevi and put it right over here. And then take the good things that happen. I have beautiful children. I'm healthy. I have Chassidus. I'm living in, let's say, Tzfas in Israel. There was a Moroccan. He told me every day his father would kiss the ground. He says, who imagined we'd be in Israel? We have such amazing brachas. Think about it. We're living in democracy. God forbid we could have been under some stupid communist tyrant or something. We're doing good. We're doing really good. But the thing is, you have to count it in the morning. You have to count it. Why? Because the first thought becomes your train of thought. So if I leave you with nothing but this exercise, a very, very, very powerful exercise. The second thing that's very, very important is purpose in life. The Rebbe says that a lot of our anxiety in life is because there's a disconnect between my soul and my actions. That's why, particularly with Jewish people, we have very powerful souls. Our souls are very connected to emes. The hallmark of Hashem says the chaysim of Hashem is emes. Aleph, mem, taf, the beginning to end. That is the seal of God, emes. So if a Jew feels that his life is aimless, he doesn't feel connected to emes and the real emes, then you don't feel that your life has value. And you can't feel good unless your life has value. So you have to have this connection. And the thing is that emes is objective. It doesn't matter what religion, what philosophy, what anti-philosophy. Emes is basically, there's a very beautiful teaching from the Rebbe. He says that it says there are 3 signs by the Jewish people. You know what the signs are? Rachmanim, Baishanim, and Goyim Lechasadim. Rachmanim, we have Rachmanis, right? Yesterday, I saw a little kitten. I couldn't handle the fact that this poor little kitten didn't have a home. Right now, we're trying to take care of it. It's like a moron takes a kitten off the street. So, and my wife, if you think I'm bad, look at my wife. She's busy ready to turn over the world for this little kitten. Always say, if you have to be reincarnated, it should be a Jewish dog. You know what I mean? No one gets treated like a Jewish dog. And now, it's Achmanim. And also, we're goyim lechasadim. We do acts of goodness and kindness, right? Even studies, like the Jews give more charity than anything. I wanted to tell you something very profound. So, the Rebbe said this, the chief rabbi of England. He said that, Lithuania was a country saturated with Torah. But unfortunately, in the Holocaust, it got decimated. Russia was a country saturated more with like Chabad Hasidim, was what we would call avodas hatfilah. They were very into davening, working on the mitzvah. Very, very special people. My own grandparents, and they were decimated. They weren't totally annihilated, but they were decimated. Not from the Germans, but from the communists. America was basically the B'nai HaChasidim. They were basically in the 1900s, a million. I bet you some of your ancestors were from Russia.
Yeah.
Right, so 1900s, there were pogroms in Russia, and 1 million Jews left. Now, 1 million Jews then is like 50 million today. And, the Lower East Side had 1 million Jews, 17 Yiddish newspapers. The whole Hollywood was made by these people, because the German Jews who came in 1850, generation or two, they were gone. In fact, all of conservative reform are the original Hasidim and their children's children, So, the fact is that American Jews, they had all this great midos of their holy ancestors, because Chabad, before it was an outreach movement, was an in-reach movement. It was the whole, Baal Shem Tov said, quoted from Saadia Gaon, they say it was a reincarnation of Saadia Gaon. He said the purpose of life is tikkun hamidos, to fix our midot. So that's the whole idea of Chassidus, is improving your midot. So these Jews, they kind of left religion because they didn't, as some of you might have grown up, because they didn't have the yeshiva system, but they never left the goodness and the kindness of being a Jew. And that chesed, which they did, people don't know this, but American Jews were the ones who gave them money to rebuild European Jews after the First World War. Certainly they gave money for the state of Israel, etc., etc. Even till this very day. מה אין בעיה?
אין בעיה? תודה.
You okay if she smokes that?
היא מסולקת בכל מקום.
לא אכפת לנו.
You don't like it, huh? She wants to smoke there.
Smoke. Does it bother you to smoke?
Okay, she should be okay. אבל יש, הכי טוב לא לעשן בכלל. זה דבר מאוד מאוס.
נכון, אתה צודק.
There's a psychologist who said, you don't have to, get into the person. He says, you just have to label the item. So if you just label the item, so hopefully the person realizes on their own. Because everything that we're attracted to is because we see it as good, but if you take it as a negative, then it whatever. And anyway, that's a separate issue. So the point is that American Jews have the quality of chesed. And he said, and look, they weren't touched. So we see from that the powerful desire of Hashem for chesed, So it's a powerful, powerful concept. In any event, getting back to the story of the Sukkah, so the schach, how did the Jews go in the desert? It basically lifted up, and it said, okay, today we're going here, tomorrow we're going there. So what the Sukkah is teaching us is how to live with God. Yom Kippur, you went and you got this relationship with God and unity with God. Sukkah is teaching you how to live with God throughout the year, as well as the purpose of life, which creates simcha. And what is that? It is that you always have to be, the first thing that Hashem said to a Jew was what? What was the first thing that Hashem said to a Jew? Think about it for a sec.
First thing Hashem said to a Jew?
Well, he was Jewish. Hannah and Hava weren't Jewish. Avram wasn't Jewish.
Avram, basically. Yeah, we consider him the first Jew. What was the first statement of Hashem to Avraham Avinu that we have recorded in the Torah? Lech lecha.
Oh, yeah.
Now, what does
And you
lech?
said that on the
Yeah. What does lech lecha mean? Lech, go, lecha, to yourself. In other words, Hashem says, and Rashi comments, I'm going to show you who you are. Avraham was no fool. 3 years old, he recognized that the whole world was wrong and he is right, and the whole world followed him. So he's a genius. But even the greatest genius doesn't understand their own potential. Because the mind is a collection. The biggest mind in the world is a person who can look at a tree and tell you how many leaves are on the tree. But it's still he's collecting data. And data is not truth. Data is a set of points of information. Truth is infinite. It comes from Hashem. The data was created by Hashem, so Hashem creates the truth. So in other words, what is the ultimate truth is that you're here for a purpose here. And who knows your purpose, Hashem? So what's your ultimate ability in this world to achieve your highest state of goodness and perfection and kindness and your greatest potential? It's actually not to use the data that you have, even if it's true, but to use the Ananei HaKavod. The clouds. Hi, how are you? You want to join a little class?
I would love.
Come.
Thank you so much.
You're so welcome.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, yeah, it's perfect.
I'll go around. Keep going.
Yeah.
It's not to use the data.
It's not to use the data. It says in Kabbalah that Hashem is not understood by the mind, but by the heart. In other words, it's like love.
Right.
Love is not something, people speak so much about relationships. Love is not data. Love is an emotion. It's a feeling. So the key is to creating the cultivating, whatever. Love is love, yeah? So the same thing is in life. The ultimate purpose of life can't be categorized. Now it's true, a child, you don't start a child off with saying, listen, I just want you to listen to the inner voice in your heart. Because the child doesn't know the inner voice in his heart. The child's going nuts. So the child needs to know there's right and there's wrong, etc. And the same thing with us, right? It says the first 2,000 years of creation and chaos. The second 2,000 years was the 2,000 years of Torah. Torah defined, what did Avraham Avinu, what did Hashem do with giving us the Torah? He created the difference between right and wrong. And it's very important. We can never run away from the Torah. Why? Because we see what happens when people run away from the Torah. They don't have a basis by which to base right and wrong. And this is a very interesting thing I saw from the Rebbe. Who were the sophisticated people? The Greeks, universities. But Yavan starts out with the Yud. Yud is Chachma. It's wisdom. It's intellectual. But what happens? It goes to a Vav, starts to descend, and then it goes to the final, and then it goes deep in the Erd. In other words, when we find this even in the universities of today, and this was the big argument between the Jewish people and Greek. The Greek philosopher says, no problem, do everything you want as long as it makes sense. And even within the Jewish people, there are many Jewish people that say, we love everything, even holiness, as long as it makes sense. The moment it doesn't make sense, you can't do this anymore. It doesn't make sense. And we say, no. Nasa v'nishma. Hashem doesn't have to make sense. I have to do it. Now, on the same time, a lot of people can get stuck. You say, give me the Torah mitzvahs, but there's got to be some point there. You can't just say I'm a robot following the Torah mitzvahs. And the answer is that's where Chassidus comes in. Chassidus is saying, the Yiddishkeit, and I'm not just saying this, Chayvus HaLevavos, the great holy Chayvus HaLevavos, says that Yiddishkeit, he says, is only the middle of the way. If you think about the 10 Commandments, it's very holy stuff, but don't kill is not the most sophisticated document in history. In other words, he was saying, who was God speaking to? He was speaking to literally people that were coming from from an Egyptian culture. So to these people, no, it's obviously that every mitzvah contains infinite depth and you go higher and higher and higher. But you can't limit, and this I'm not trying to put anyone down, but I know we're dealing with this issue. You can't limit the Torah to halacha. Right? Halacha means halicha. It's a path. It's a pathway. It's a way to go. And so you have to understand that halacha is the springboard of our soul into continuous growth. So it's like that child. You have to start the child off with right and wrong. But you don't stop his growth at, you know how to eat with the fork, you know how to be polite. Because your child, you always want your child to grow more. So we have an infinite potential, but we can never reach infinity on our own because a person is finite. And so Hashem allows us the freedom of choice to find him, because otherwise you wouldn't care about it. But often we get stuck in what we found, or we associate what we found with Yiddishkeit, which is stage number, let's say 2. I found it, Yiddishkeit. But stage number 3, it says the third 2,000 years is redemption. What is redemption? Redemption is when everyone and everything in the universe is on purpose. When you know this moment, this guy that was telling you about, the survivor, he didn't have an easy life, he was traumatized from the war, he was with a whole thing. But he told me, and it's true, he never worries, because I know Hashem has a purpose for me. If we knew beyond a shadow of a doubt, I met a guy, very interesting guy, shame, poor guy. He's like the first contract of AIDS in Africa. It was like I saw him and he wasn't doing well. But he says, I know Hashem has a plan. If a person knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that their life is chosen, right? Often, why are we, if you want to call it, anxious? Because I don't know that my life has true value. If you knew for sure that you're going to save the world, would you worry? No. But if you don't know that, you're like, what am I doing? Another day. And I met a Yid, Shane, the poor guy, who was 104 years old. Guy was just sick of living, like another day. He was like, literally, he was just sick. He was in good health, but he was just sick of it. So the point is that when we can understand that our life is not a random event, we were chosen to be here. Everything is chosen to be here. So it turns the whole story around. Now, I may not know the choice, but I didn't even make the choice. So I don't have to know the choice. Mm-hmm. I just have to be willing to follow Hashem. Now, how does Hashem communicate to us? It's very deep var to the Baal Shem Tov. Baal Shem Tov says Hashem communicates in hints. He hints to us. So a person has to learn the language of hints. And many of us, we want to, often from fear, because you look at children and certainly young adults, they're willing to take a lot of risks. Why? Why do they bring people to the army at the age of 18? Because they're dumb enough to jump out of planes. Right? The perfect age. You tell him to jump, he jumps. Take a 25-year-old to the army, he's like, I don't think this is such a good idea. You know what I mean? So Hashem is telling us, guys, I need you to be ready to live in 2 worlds at the same time. Whatever you know is very important. It's all good. But also be ready to jump. Also be ready. When you know I'm talking to you, be ready to go. And that's what made Avram Avinu. What qualifies Avram as Avram was not the fact, people don't know this, but there were other people that discovered God before him. But what qualified him as Avram Avinu was the fact that he was willing to have Mesiras Nefesh, willing to give up his life for the word of God. God told me to leave. And it wasn't just like he was 75 years old and he had opened up the largest Chabad house in the world. It wasn't Jews, but thousands of Gentiles. They say he had converted the world, the whole world. Mm-hmm. So you can imagine who Avram was. And he was living in a normal place. And now imagine I tell you, okay, forget all of that. Move Israel down was a no man's land. Go to this desert. So you say, God, you got to be out of your mind. You see what I'm doing here? The next day, he's ready to go, packing up his bag.
How did he experience that? As a voice in his head, as a cold, like a voice outside of his head?
So he probably, I don't know, probably has a voice in his head. Probably. I would imagine he experienced it like that, yeah. And he was obviously, I have a saying, if I can quote myself, that when God talks to you, you know. In other words, Avraham Avinu knew that was God. Right? We know. So he was smart enough to know.
But that's not our intuition that we have now, that people have now?
Yeah, very much our intuition. Hashem is communicating big time now. We're in the times of Mashiach. Times of Mashiach, Hashem is communicating. And so a person, the fact is that most people are so afraid of being called crazy that that they're actually much more doubtful than confident on the voice of Hashem. So in fact, our challenge is not to doubt it. Our challenge is to accept. If you get a voice which isn't really your own voice, not schizophrenic, God forbid, that guy's hearing lots and lots of voices, but if a person, once in a while, you hear a thing, like I have a cousin, I told you the story that he was in 770 and it was like, go to the oil. And he was like, why should I go to the oil? Gets it a couple times. So he goes to the oil Turns out he meets somebody who was looking for this guy for a couple of months. The guy happened to be there. And this is happening all across the board, in the New Age world, It's very, very big. People are recognizing this very much as a real phenomenon. For us, in fact, it's very difficult because we're Jews, and as Jewish people, we're like, there are prophets. Who am I to be a prophet? But the whole idea of Mashiach is that the Spirit of God, I will pour my Spirit on all flesh. It says, your sons and daughters will prophesy. Right, so Ruach HaKodesh may not be the same level of prophecy, which is actually receiving a vision, but there are many people that are receiving various levels of visions. I'm not one of them, but certainly in terms of the voice, I'm not ashamed to say I'm one of them. I definitely hear it all the time. So the thing is, it's a matter of listening, right? And the fact is, like, how do you know something is crazy? It doesn't work. But if you listen and it does work, and it was a benefit, what makes a drug a good drug? It works. It made you better. So if you listen and it makes you better. Now, the last point that I want to bring out, which is a very important point, is that everything is changeable. The whole idea of the sukkah is it's a temporary hut. Don't get fixed in whatever reality you think God even told you. You're listening to the voice of God. The key is to be the person that's always ready to listen. Because the ego always wants to be fixed. The ego wants to say, oh, I accomplished. I did this. I'm the man. But once you say I'm the man, is you got stuck in your ego. And then you can't leave what it is that you are for what it is that you need to become. So we're going through this constant thing. What's the idea of the nanuyim? Up and down. What's the idea of the juggling of the fire? It's ratzoi v'shuv. We're always going through this process of, let's say, hearing the voice of Hashem, or even that concept of hashgacha pratis. If something comes your way, you have to think about it. It's not random. It doesn't mean you always have to do it, but you have to give it consideration. We have to live a life of openness to possibility.
How does a person know then what their purpose is? Say, like at my age, for a long time I thought my purpose is to bring in Jewish neshamas, whether they're religious or not.
Yeah.
So I had a big family. So
Yeah.
now what? They're all bigger now. So now
Yeah.
what's my purpose? What am I supposed to be doing?
Right. This is a good question. I don't know. I mean, first of all, what's your name? Rivka. You have two names or one name?
Well, if you want to use my Hebrew, it's Rivka Shalamas, yeah.
Is it like your birth name? Rivka
That's the name. My legal name is Robin Carey. They gave me a Hebrew name also when I was born. Is Rivka Shalamas.
Rivka Shalamas. What's your mom's name?
Yehudis Esther.
Uh-huh.
Oh, you could figure it out from the name.
Well,
sort of.
There's actually a bit of a Kabbalist in town. I'll give you his number.
Yeah.
And he can tell you, if you give him your name and your birth dates, he's very good at telling you that. Yeah. Very special
what
guy.
you should be doing?
Yeah, he has a lot of insight.
To talk to women?
Yeah. He'll give you insight in terms, maybe about what you're doing. Definitely he'll give you a lot of insight into you and your personality. It could very well be about what you should be doing. He's a good guy. So I don't know.
You should make a directory.
I know, I'm telling
Charge
you.
people for it.
I told you we need to work on that, yeah. Maybe after Sukkah.
You gotta set the time.
Yeah, I need to set the time,
Both
yeah.
of you.
Yeah, it's true. No, we're going to sit there. I
That's
really
a
want
big
to
thing,
do that.
connecting people. That's
Yeah,
like,
very, very
I
important.
say every time I came to Israel, we never met with any
Right.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah, 100%. I'm going to send you his number. Remind me after the class, I'll send you his number. But he's very good in that way. I also have in my book, in the back of my book, I have like Discover the Meaning of Your Life, in the appendix, and it's actually a very good book for discovering the meaning of your life. Okay, so it's not everything, but it has like a 5-step process, and it's a very good 5-step process. So I would recommend that as well. I don't know you well enough to really to say, so I can't say. Okay, but go for it.
Okay, so I'm a little bit older and I don't have any children myself, and I've asked myself that question many times. And I just wanted to say that I came to the realization on my own, it doesn't have to be like, your purpose doesn't have to be some huge thing. I don't have to be a huge Rebbitzin that has like a million guests, and I'm my own person. I'm Eliza. Maybe my purpose is to smile, make other people happy, go into a hospital where people are, it doesn't have to be something huge.
Shalom,
But
todah.
that is a big deal.
Todah.
So I
like
wanted
doing
to
that
share
too.
that because I don't have children, and so
Right.
like I could ask myself the same thing, like, so what am I doing here on this earth? I don't have children. I'm not like, per or boo, like with my husband. We don't yet have children, so like, but I still believe that a purpose doesn't have to be huge. That's all I want to say. Sorry to interrupt them.
No,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, there's a very strong truth to that,
Thank you.
which is that the purpose of love, basically the point of my book is the purpose of life is staring you in the face.
Right.
Because like often we're thinking big, but really it's like in Yiddishkeit, who are you meant to, like even charitably, who are you meant to help first? Your wife, your kids, your family, your community, the Jews of Israel, let's say a Talmud Chacham. But there's a certain hierarchy to chesed. And so we often think when we think about the purpose of life, it's how I'm going to help that person that I have no idea who the person is, that doesn't know. There's a certain attraction, almost a glamour to the person that you don't know, because it's like there's this, I don't want to go into the whole psychology behind it, but there's a certain attraction to it. But actually the hardest purpose of life is dealing consistently with the people that you do know. And after that, after you're successful in that circle, then you expand it. Okay, someone else. And I think if we understood that, it'd give us a lot of comfort because like, okay, this is where it is. I have purpose in life. It's just a matter of, because who needs our help most, even though it's actually the people that are closest to us, like your kids, who needs you more? The stranger or your kids, your own kids. So it may be not as glamorous, or it may not be as evident, etc. But sometimes, not sometimes, I think all the time, that's like, so kind of, if you think of the purpose of life in terms of circles, we would be very, very successful in terms of purpose. In general, also every nation, every generation has a purpose. The purpose of our generation is to bring Mashiach, and we do that through extra Torah mitzvahs dedicated to the bringing of Mashiach, recognizing that there is a Mashiach in every generation ready to come, and it's like almost here, having a lot of focus. The Chafetz Chaim had
And that's really going to be one person? A
So
person's
Mashiach-
going to come and say, I'm Mashiach.
Well, it's going to be, basically,
Everybody will know,
very,
but-
very, long story short, Mashiach, I have a lot of videos on it, but Mashiach is going to be, did I send you my book on Mashiach?
No.
Okay, I have a book, remind me to send you a booklet on Mashiach, but basically what's going to happen when Mashiach comes, will be Tchias HaMesim, resurrection of the dead, and the tzaddikim come in miyad, the tzaddikim will be the leaders, so we'll see Moshe, and we'll see that the Mashiach will be evident right in front of our eyes, So I think this is the way I see, from all the information that I gather and glean, the way I see it is the Rebbe will be kind of like master of ceremonies, But in a way, all the tzaddikim are Mashiach. Like David, we call David Mashiach, Moshe Rabbeinu. So Mashiach's not going to take away anybody's role. He'll augment everybody's role, including our own. Mashiach, I know this lady that she had a very powerful near-death experience. She saw the world. When Mashiach comes, she said everything was alive with its purpose. Right? The tree was alive with its purpose. Everything was aligned to its purpose. And in a way, that is Mashiach. If you can get there now, get a certain sense of, I know who I am, I know why I am, and I'm doing it, you're good to go. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Obviously, you need Hashem's help with some basic blessings to survive, etc., and health. But if we align, that's what I was saying before, that if we can align ourselves, and that's really the message of the Sukkah, which is the highest potential that the human being has, is not necessarily understandable. It's knowing that I am a servant of Hashem. Ani Never says in the Mishnah. The Rebbe said it thousands of times. And when the Rebbe, what I liked about the Rebbe was he saw everything. We always take a halacha from the last person, and this is like the halacha of Jewish spirituality. He saw it all, and he's giving you the bottom line. We're here, we're created to serve Hashem. And what does that look like? Apart from the basics, it looks like every moment different. And it's part of our mission in this world to be able to be attuned to what is the mission of the moment, right? We're often trying to get the whole picture. What is the mission of the moment? And if I could download that into my brain and heart and soul, that actually it's like a soldier. What is the job of a soldier? Whatever he is told to do now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, now. So what is my job in this world? It's to realize that Hashem is in control, and I am here to fulfill His will, and that will be revealed to me. And I like to say that if you tell Hashem, I'm ready to serve you, just tell me what to do. I have no doubt about it. He'll tell you what to do. Hashem has no problems communicating. He'll get you the message of what you have to do. But remember, it's not a limited liability company. It is a continuous, enjoyable feature that you are basically. I remember seeing this guy, I think I might have mentioned, he was over 70 years old, brilliant guy. He had never put on tefillin. Sorry, he was 90 years old when I saw him. 70 years he'd not put on tefillin. So I put on tefillin with him. He's like, wow, I feel reborn. And so I said to him, he developed his own spiritual system. I said to him about Mashiach. I don't think he knew much about it. So he said, to me, you're the Mashiach. I said, what do you mean? He said, you did me a favor, right? So, famous story with the Baal Shem Tov. The guy wanted to see Eliyahu Navi, and he came, and the Baal Shem Tov says, okay, you got to go to this and this place, this town, this village, and over there at the end, there's a widow with some children, and go to them for Pesach. So he figured he's going to open the door, but bring provisions. So he brings provisions. We stay. We don't have anything, but you're welcome to stay. So don't worry, I have provisions. Opens the door. He doesn't see Eliyahu Navi. So he goes back to the Baal Shem Tov. He says, I didn't see Eliyahu Navi. He says, go back for the last days, but this time before you go in, wait by the window for a minute. So he goes to the window, and he overhears the kid saying, Ma, what are we going to eat for the last day? She says, don't worry, just like Hashem sent us Eliyahu Navi the first days, He'll send us the last days. So every little chesed that we do to someone else is huge. Because when you actually think about it, to that person, usually, one of the things I write in the booklet, in the appendix, when you get given an opportunity for chesed, actually think about it. You think, often we think, okay, if I don't help someone else, well, but actually, will someone else help this person? Often no. So for this person that needs that help, or even that ride, or even that loan, or this and that, you just made a huge difference in that person's life. And the Baal Shem Tov says a soul comes into this world, lives 70, 80 years for the sole purpose to help somebody physically and certainly spiritually. I just went to a minyan. Somebody said, oh, that guy, you helped that guy, whatever, he came to town. Whatever, I got him a little bit connected. And Baruch Hashem, he became about Shuvah, this and that. So I didn't really do much. But the little bit that I did completely changed this guy's life. You make a shidduch. It's that hard to tell two people that, whatever, it worked out, they're doing all the hard work. But meanwhile, they have children because of you. The first thing Hashem did was make a shidduch. If we understood how valuable chesed is, we'd be running after it day and night. It's the most beautiful, valuable thing, but it's like it doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles to it, because the guy's not going to say, oh, wow, you saved my whole life. Like 99% of the time, you don't even know what you did. But really, it's like you speak about these souls that come back from heaven. They just speak about chesed, 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 chesed. So I think that we have a very powerful lesson that we did right now, which is that the Sukkah is Yom Kippur in action. It's living with Hashem. What does that mean? It means that the clouds of glory are with you. You're in Hashem reality, and Hashem is giving you advice and guidance of where to go and what to do. And all we need to do is kind of be that soldier. There's millions of people in armies now. As we speak now, there must be 100 million people ready to do somebody else's order, and another 50, half a billion people, working for some guy in a company, ready to do the orders. We're here, Hashem, ready to do your order. And just that Kabbalah's oil, just that sense of duty to Hashem itself gives us the chayas, it gives us the life force, it gives us the dignity. Why? Because I now feel purposeful. I feel like on purpose. Any questions?
Well, say you're struggling with certain mitzvahs.
Yeah.
But others
Yeah.
you can do.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a lot.
So I feel that you're dealing a lot with guilt, and I think that guilt is not a healthy thing. I think you have to stay. You have to go from where you are. Say, whatever. I'm just saying what my feelings. Say, I love Hashem. I want to do His will, and I'm working towards it. Whatever. But the thing is, it's not limited. It could be that our perception of God in a way is limited by mitzvahs. Mitzvahs is a big part, but it's a big part of an infinite story. And the infinite story, in a certain sense, this is the words of the Rebbe, it's not my words. He says, serving Hashem in your day-to-day is even more important in Torah mitzvahs. In other words, in your interactions, in your consciousness that I am a person with a purpose in this world. So because we're religious, we sometimes define God by the religion. So we have a box with 613 little curvatures and say, okay, that's it. But that's not it. That's part of a life of Hashem. It's an important part, but it's a part. And actually the more important part is the constant joy that I've been chosen to be a servant, mainly in the aspect of chesed, right? And I think if we understand that, because I really feel that is our internal neshama. Our internal neshama is chesed. A Jew is chesed. And so that's why a Jew, if he could be learning all the Torah and doing all the mitzvahs, but if he's not involved in chesed, he's not going to feel whole. You have to be involved in chesed. And so once we can understand that Yiddishkeit is obviously, it's from Hashem and it's important, but it's part of refining us, part of making us a holier person. And ultimately, for what reason? So we don't become arrogant, so we become sensitive, kinder people. So it's all leading to where? It's all leading to chesed. So as soon as we can identify that this is the world of Hashem, a world of growth, a world of Torah mitzvahs, but primarily a world of relationships. And if we do that, then we're free, because we're aligned to emes, we're aligned to fundamental truth. And it's hard. It's hard because there's a certain klippa, I'm saying this for myself, a klippa that will say, oh, only if you're davening, only if you're learning, But actually, would Hashem want me to learn more or help my wife more? You know what I mean? I actually think, we say, Hashem says, right, rub out my name so there should be peace between a man and a woman. Like, the Rebbe was very into the idea of he was really the guy that made everyone wear a sheitel. It was like he brought it back to America, this and that. But there was a couple that the woman was becoming a Baal Tshuva, the husband was not. And he said, don't wear a sheitel. And eventually, he came around, and then eventually, 20 years later. So to the Rebbe, Shalom Bayis was paramount. So we have to, it says, a word from the Kotzker Rebbe, he says, Anshe Kodesh. He says, holy people. It doesn't say Kodesh, holy. He says Kodesh people. He says holy people. Hashem wants us to be holy people. Number one, we're people. We're human beings, and it's not only to Jews. We have to be compassionate to Gentiles, to everyone, to everything. We have to be normal human beings.
Kittens.
Yeah.
The kittens.
The kittens. How can you reject the kitten? Poor little kitten. Okay. Fine. Okay. All the best.